Hi, thanks for joining us at Intersolar 2011. I'm Yusilia Wayne, a contributor to Renewable Energy World, and we have two experts from the DuPont Photovoltaic Solutions here with us today. To my far right is Maria Boulden, the Global Sales Manager, and to my immediate left is Monica Tisack, the Business Development Manager. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yes, thank you.
So as the PV market develops, in recent years there's been a lot of efforts by materials manufacturers to develop new products, and hoping that you can sort of break down what kind of materials, protective materials, that you can find in a PV module today.
Certainly. So if you think about a photovoltaic module, the main component of it that's actually there to perform the function is the cell.
Mm-hmm.
So if you start with the cell and work your way out, there's a layer of encapsulant on the front of it and a layer of encapsulant behind it that cradles and protects that very important active ingredient, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Then, protecting the module overall, you have a front sheet, can be glass or some other type of material, and you have a protective back sheet that, again, can be glass or some other material. Those are the basic components of a crystalline silicon cell or module.
And when we talk about protection, what elements are you trying to protect the cells from? We're talking about moisture or sunlight, or what are
Sure, absolutely. Dirt, moisture, any aspect of the environment that could introduce a challenge, whether it's corrosion or any kind of power loss in the module itself.
And what are some of the common materials used and for either the encapsulant or the front and back sheets today?
So the front sheet historically has been glass. As I'd mentioned, there are other polymeric options and things of that nature. Glass is probably the most common. For the back sheet, the Tedlar-based back sheet, the PVF film, is the standard, if you will. There's some other things such as glass or other types of polymeric options as well. For the encapsulant, EVA really is the standard from the standpoint of transparency, low cost, versatility. Really was selected early on in module design, years ago. If you think about the historical origins of some of these products, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory was asked by the US government to design the perfect module. And this was decades ago. And in designing that optimal module design, EVA, because of its transparency, cost, and other aspects of it, were selected as the optimal encapsulant. Tedlar-based PVF film was selected as the optimal back sheet, and glass was selected as the front sheet. And despite all the innovations that have occurred in this industry, those have remained the mainstays. Now, since then, there have been some decisions made based on cost and some goals of module makers to reduce cost, and sometimes they choose different materials. But those really are the core materials designed for the longest lifetime, the best efficiencies, and the optimized cost positions.
What are some of the newer materials and the alternatives to EVA?
Thank you. So EVA, as Maria mentioned, has been the lion's share of the encapsulants, and there are new innovations with EVA as well that have come out primarily along the EVA sheet formulations and the UV stability packages. So there's a lot of new inventions around the EVA sheets. Beyond EVA, though, you have things such as silicones, polyurethanes, and polyolefins, but they really haven't gained a lot of traction in the industry for encapsulants.
They haven't gained a lot of traction because they're new, more expensive, or just not quite measure up to EVA at this point?
Well, they all have very good attributes in their own way. Some of them are more transparent than EVA, but EVA certainly has the history and the demonstrated 25-year plus life, right? So you're seeing a smaller ramp of these new emerging products. Some of them are more expensive than others, and some of them just behave differently than the incumbents.
Do you expect a diversification then, that there will be a wider range of options and being used, I guess, down the road?
Yes, DuPont's view is that there will be no standardization around encapsulants. For example, in BIPV, you might need things such as ionomer sheets or PVB type encapsulants that will pass the building code requirements that EVA encapsulants don't necessarily pass. So you'll see some segmentation because of functionality that occurs. In other cases, such as SIGS technologies or CAD-TEL cell technologies, the sensitivities of those cells are different from crystalline silicon, and so the tweaking of the formulation and the polymer structure really has a significant impact on the longevity of that cell.
Speaking of thin films, are the encapsulant or the packaging different than what you see in crystalline silicon modules?
It is sometimes different. Probably the most unique difference is in the case of CAD-TEL, where they deposit the cell components directly on the front side glass. In that case, there's no encapsulant per se in between the glass and the cell on the front side. The encapsulant goes on the back side. Let's take SIGS for example. If you look at within that cell technology, the different methods of deposition create different sensitivities. So even though it's one cell technology, you have to start using different encapsulants in order to have a robust system in the end.
Could you talk a bit about what kind of special needs does the 6 modules need to have in order to give that extra protection?
Well, SIGs are very moisture sensitive, and people are always looking for water vapor transmission rates that are very low, say 10 to the minus 5 grams per meter squared per day, which is extremely low on permeability terms. So it's very critical that you have to create both everything on the top side and the back side of the cell that will add these barrier layers to protect that cell from the water.
So the permeability is necessary not just for the front barrier, but all around?
It is all around. It's not only on the top side of the cell, but the back side of the cell, depending on how it's deposited, of course, and as well as the edge of the module. So edge sealing becomes very important as well.
You mentioned 10 to the negative 5. Could you explain, so for those in the audience who don't understand the permeability metrics, what does that mean?
Okay, well, to give people a general idea, glass is impermeable to water. So essentially it's 0 water vapor transmission rate. Barriers for SIGs are looking at for 10 to the minus 5, which is extremely low. And then if you were to take a general fluoropolymer such as ETFE, you're looking at a water vapor transmission rate for 2 mil film, say, somewhere around 1 gram per meter squared per day.
With that being that about 1 gram of water vapor can get through that material per day, right?
That's correct. So as you can imagine, the thicker you have a barrier, the longer it will take water to go through.
Now, is the 10 to negative 5 permeability, is that actually available on the market today?
Well, there are several companies that are developing what we call ultra barriers, and today large volumes of these types of flexible barriers are not available, and everybody is having the race to create the commercially available product that will be durable for long life.
What are available today then in terms of permeability?
So there are several ways that you can create barriers within films, and one type which DuPont is working on with the Department of Energy is called atomic layer deposition, in which case you put fine layers of inorganic materials on your polymer layer, and that creates, you can think of it as some type of sieve against water, right? So the fineness of that grain then has a direct relation to the permeability of water vapor.
So in terms of the metrics, are the materials that are available today more like 10 to the negative 2 or negative 3?
Yes, you're seeing things come on the market that are close to 10 to the minus 3 water vapor transmission rates today. But we're always looking for the most durable and the least permeable materials.
What about price comparison? I know that's what everyone always wants to know, is how does it compare with glass? Could you talk about the price comparison and when do you expect price parity can be reached?
Yes, let me speak to how difficult it is to achieve barrier films that are flexible. It is extremely difficult, and as such, the materials in their limited quantities today are fairly expensive. Now, in our internal analysis, we believe that we can develop ultra barriers that will be on par with high quality optical glass. However, it's going to take a few years to get to a cost down. DuPont is very concerned with the long life durability of these materials, and we're trying to be very deliberate in the way that we develop the materials. We're more concerned about having something that will last that 25 years in the field and in handling, and once we have that, then we will focus on the cost down roadmap. But it will take several years for that to happen.
And I guess since the SiC manufacturers are just ramping up their production, so I guess in terms of timing, that should be about right? By the time that they actually ramp up and make
Yes,
the
there's a
product.
lot of barriers that have to, and milestones that have to be achieved in creating these products. So you're looking at probably 18 to 24 months for these types of materials to be online at scale.
Okay, great. Well, I want to thank you both for coming today. I really appreciate it. And thank you for watching in.